They say that when you have a perfect couple, it's a marriage made in heaven. But I'd like to challenge that. This couple, are they a match made in heaven? Or are they truly a match made in hell? They both have adopted the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde gene. However, one tends to maintain the persona of Mr. Hyde on a permanent basis. The other switches, and the Mr. Hyde persona is really only seen when she is in company of him. Otherwise, her persona is that of the meek and mild Dr. Jekyll. We're going to travel to the Midwest and look into a couple who have established themselves, for a better term, as domestic terrorists. Now, I don't mean terrorists in the traditional value of blowing up buildings, killing innocent people. But like a terrorist, they attack the government. They leave a path of destruction behind them, victims terrorized by their antics, communities divided by chaos and order. Their story, to believe them, is a story that they are the victim, that the government is plotting against them. But in this first video, I'm going to look at their criminal history. A match made in hell. Say hello to Christopher Ryder, aka For Public Safety, and Tiffany Napier, aka Official Misconduct. Welcome to Indiana, the crossroads of America. Famous for its farmlands, picture-perfect beaches, amusement parks, natural beauty, and notwithstanding the Indianapolis 500.
This is, and always has been, and will be, the greatest spectacle in racing. This is the Indianapolis 500.
However, there is a dark side to Indiana, one for which they wouldn't wish upon any other state, and probably wish they didn't have to admit to. Welcome to Heaven or Hell, Christopher Ryder and Tiffany Napier. Now, most of us are familiar with Christopher Ryder, aka For Public Safety, aka Dumbwaiter. I mean, who gets stuck in an elevator?
Well, they locked me in the damn elevator.
So let's start by looking at Tiffany Napier, aka Official Misconduct. There are 3 open cases where she is using the same attorney. I wonder where she gets the money for this attorney. Can you say e-begging? Or maybe it's coming from here. Who knows? But the 3 cases are 10D05 2401 CB 000012, 72C01 1803 JP 000009, and 72D01 1407 DR 000098. All 3 are centered around custody, visitation, and child support for her son and daughter. Now, the 2 cases ending in 000012 and 000009 are due to be heard on the 8/30/24 at 9 a.m. in the Clark County Superior Court. Now, 000009 was filed in the Scott County Superior Court, but this case is now going to be heard in Clark County at the same time as the previous case ending in 1-2. These 2 cases are related to her son. The next hearing for the 3rd case, 000098, which relates to her daughter, will be held on 8/9/24 at 2:30 p.m. at the Scott County Superior Court. This is a hearing on a motion to modify custody. Currently, as it stands, the daughter's father has sole custody of the child, and Tiffany is allowed supervised visitation. Now, back in April, the courts ruled that Tiffany was to commence paying $63 per week in child support, with a further $2 per week in back child support. Currently, Tiffany owes approximately $2,000 in child support. Yet, she's defied the court order and hasn't paid anything, while she's attempting to get 50-50 custody of her daughter. Tiffany, even if by some chance you get the 50-50 custody that you're after, you still need to pay the ordered child support. As of 8/4/24, you are in contempt of court. Now, this could be a good point to bring into Tiffany's child custody battle. And I have certain concerns about Tiffany being given custody of any of her children for the following reasons.
On October 30th, 2019, the Department of Child Services, DCS, received a report Child and AN were victims of neglect in the form of being exposed to domestic violence. Appellant's App, Volume 2, P12. The report alleged mother had committed domestic violence against her boyfriend. Specifically, the report alleged mother punched boyfriend repeatedly in the face in front of the children and pulled a butcher knife on him. ID on November 1st, Family Case Manager, FCM, Mercedes Smith investigated the report, finding the domestic violence allegations to be factual against mother. FCM Smith removed child and AN from the home. ID at 13, child was placed with father.
So, October 2019, DCS receives a report that the mother, Tiffany, punches the boyfriend and pulls a butcher's knife on him. And she does this in front of the children. And on November the 1st, DCS finds that the allegation for domestic violence to be factual. So, how did all of this happen? Well, the report goes on to state,
on November 6th, DCS filed a petition alleging child is a chins. In February 2020, the trial court conducted a fact-finding hearing. Only 2 caseworkers testified. FCM Smith testified as to the domestic abuse allegations against mother and the investigation into those allegations. FCM Smith generally testified as to her understanding of the incident, boyfriend's daughter, and mother argued, and when boyfriend intervened, mother pulled a butcher knife on him. Either mother or boyfriend then threw the knife in the sink, and mother punched boyfriend 4 or 5 times in the head. As to the specifics of what she was told, FCM Smith stated boyfriend told her mother, smacked him in the face. Talk to volume 2P9. Finally, she related boyfriend's teenage son told her mother, pulled out the butcher knife on boyfriend, and there was also a gun involved. Mother drinks every night, and he was afraid to go home because of mother's behavior. ID at 10. The second witness, FCM Stephanie Hale, testified only as to mother's participation in services after child's removal. The trial court found child is a chins based upon the testimony I've heard today. IDs at 15.
So, Tiffany has an argument with her boyfriend's daughter. The boyfriend steps in, Tiffany pulls a knife. Now, there is a mention of a firearm, but there's no further reference to this firearm, who had it or how it was used. And then we hear from the son. Quote, mother drinks every night and he was afraid to go home. End quote. Because of mother's behaviour. This alone shows how the cumulative damage Tiffany's actions are affecting her son emotionally and mentally. Does all of this sound vaguely familiar? Well, unless you've been living under a rock for the past 12 months, then this story should sound familiar. But in this version, the roles are reversed, and it's the male who strikes the female, holds her hostage. All of this whilst her child is present. Let's travel back in time to Easter 1999. Easter, Saturday night, a time where parents try to get their excited children off to bed so the Easter Bunny can visit, leaving treats of brightly wrapped chocolates.
Here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity-hopping Easter's on its way.
That probably won't last a day. And then the all familiar cries of, "Mummy, I feel sick." Because, well, as kids do, too many chocolate Easter eggs get eaten. But this year the Easter Bunny didn't call. Easter was a myriad of punches thrown at Mummy, a handgun pointed at her head. And the Easter message of 1999? I'm going to unalive you. Easter, a time of joy and happiness for a child, is torn from under her and becomes a nightmare lasting nearly 10 hours before her mum can scoop her up and runs from the house fearing for her safety and the safety of her child. Finally arriving at the police station where safety awaits them. Yes, this time the story is reversed. This time it's Christopher Ryder punching his then girlfriend, Miss G, in the head before drawing a firearm and pointing at her and telling her that he's going to unalive her before unaliving himself. All of this in front of Miss G's 4-year-old daughter. Let's come back to the present, to Mother's Day 2024. This is a social media post made by Official Misconduct, aka Tiffany Napier. Read the first line. "Lose them. I didn't even want them." Now this post has since been removed, but this is Tiffany talking about her children around Mother's Day. What mother, what sane mother would come out and say something like this? Tiffany, do you ever consider the consequences of your actions or what you say verbally or in print? Think about this. What sort of psychological effect do you think this would have on your children? Apart from this, there is something more disturbing that has the possibility of putting her children in harm's way. And that is the people that Tiffany and Dumbwaiter associate with. I'm not referring to members of the local parish, nor the mums and dads at the local soccer match, or the shopping centre, but their associates from YouTube. Known criminals convicted and awaiting trial, adults on the sex offenders register, kiddie fiddlers. If you're a parent, let's assume this. Tiffany gets shared custody, and it's a birthday time for one of her children. Would you let your child go to their place knowing all of this? Now, I'm no psychiatrist or a medical professional, but even I can see the potential for mental stress and the possibility of symptoms for PTSD. And yet I cannot begin to imagine how terrified these children were from both of these incidents. No, these are not Hollywood scripts for a B-grade horror movie. This is real life. These are real people suffering at the hands of their partners. These are real children, terrified by adults who they look up to, who they consider to be their parents or have a parental role. This is life in the suburbs. Now, luckily for the children involved, they were removed from the vicinity of the respective assailants. Miss G took her daughter, as Dumbwaiter wasn't the natural father, and the children were taken from Tiffany and placed in the care of their respective fathers. But now, in 2024, Tiffany is applying for shared custody of her children, her son and daughter. My understanding at the present time is that Tiffany has been granted visitation rights for her son for a 6-week period, so the son becomes comfortable with his mum again. And then on the 7th week, Tiffany will be allowed to have her son overnight. However, the change in visitation and or custody for her daughter is still before the courts. Does this concern me, and should it concern you? To put simply, yes. You only have to look at the environment that this child is going to be exposed to. A couple who are frequently fighting with law enforcement, creating conflict to promote their respective YouTube channels. A couple that not only endangers themselves by distracted driving, but other users on the road. And now there's the potential for an innocent life of a child to be put in danger. A child's life that was once protected by his father and by the government agency charged with protecting the life and well-being of children, the Indiana Department of Child Services. On the DCS website, they make two statements. The Family Preservation Program carries out the agency's goals to prevent unnecessary separation from their families by identifying family problems and assisting families in resolving them. DCS also seeks to return children who have been removed from their own homes to their families through the provision of the services to the child and family. This is a two-way street, and when the parent, in this case the mother, decides that she knows better, then there is only so much DCS and Family Preservation Program can do. The safety of the child, physically, mentally and emotionally, must be DCS's primary duty of care. However, I believe that in this particular case, DCS is failing in their goal. A simple study of Tiffany's and Christopher's respective YouTube channels would prove to them that DCS is potentially putting these children in harm's way, either physically and or mentally, endangering these children. If this was the case, if this child or these children were to suffer in some way, God forbid, could a lawsuit be brought against Indiana DCS? Well, it certainly wouldn't be the first time. Would it, DCS? So there you have it. Two people destined to meet, destined to travel down the same road. I'll leave it for you to decide. A match made in. But before I go, if you know someone who is suffering from domestic violence, please encourage them to seek help. The following numbers are for domestic violence hotlines so that you can get the help that you need. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'd be interested in hearing what you think. But for now, bye.